Good day, everybody. My name is Redeyes, and today we're asking, what's this then? About the Slormancer. So the Slormancer is an ARPG developed by Slormite Studios, very fitting name, and published by Abiding Bridge. I believe this is their first game. I don't believe this was the first thing published by Abiding Bridge, but certainly it seems like the first game made by Slormite Studios. Came out on the 13th of May, so relatively recent release there. However, it was in early access for a couple of years, so you may have seen this one floating around Steam for a while. But just with its 1.0 release, I've decided to check it out here. So we're just going to dive straight into the options menu here so I can show you what they got. Not a huge amount to talk about in here, so we'll be relatively quick. Gameplay-wise, you've just got a ton of like toggles for stuff that you want to have on and preferences and stuff like that, you know, display hero damage, display health bars, life totals, you know, you can just change things to look up. Auto pick up materials, you know, all this sort of stuff, very nice. Do a click to move if you would like to do that. Change where the map position is, you know, just nice stuff. If we head on into the actual, like, full settings here, the game has a pixel graphic style, so there's not too much going on here in terms of, like, you know, you're not going to be changing texture resolutions and stuff here. But you've got your resolution, window mode, target FPS. Now, the highest this goes to is 120 and then uncapped. I do always kind of wish that, ideally, the best capping method would be that if we can cap it to a specific individual frame count, you know, we can set it to whatever we want. But in this game's case, it's not the biggest deal. You don't need a bajillion frames for this sort of game. 120 FPS, for example, you know, more than enough. I just keep it on uncapped because I like seeing higher frame rates. Your VSync, lock cursor to screen, I would recommend toggling that on because you'll probably be moving the mouse around quite a bit shooting at things. Change your font size, change your damage number, font size. You can change the font to be more pixely like the rest of the game is, however I personally prefer the non-pixelated font here. Low effects, this is just if you need some more performance. And then you've got your music stuff and all here, it's all pretty good. Languages as well. And then keybinds, you've got rebindable keys for pretty much everything, and same with controller. I'm not going to click into that because whenever you do, it thinks you have a controller plugged in, and it'll freeze the game for a minute. So I don't want to do that. But yeah, you've got rebindable controller stuff and keyboard stuff, so it's very nice. Right, let's jump on into it. So I've put about 5 hours or so into this one. As always, what's this then is a first impressions kind of critique review sort of thing. So, and then obviously with some live gameplay. So this is our hub area. Very nice little hub area, so it is. The game does look great. It's very, very gorgeous pixelated style. All the animations are super fluid and crystal clear, or crisp, I should say. Like for example, the elven archer I'm playing as, like, she has this little like skipping animation that really sells like what sort of character she is, because there's not a ton of characterization. It's a very light ARPG. You know, it doesn't take itself too seriously. We're going in single player, we're killing some stuff, we're raising our numbers, we're getting loot, and that's what we're here for. But you can do a bunch of different things. I'm currently, as I'm going through the game at the moment, I'm currently unlocking new things to do at the hub area. So the one I most recently unlocked is like a storage vault for my like legendaries and stuff over here, and there's like a challenge run thing here, which I suspect is probably going to be what the end game of this sort of relies on, because it's just like rerunnable things with different like effects, or like they're kind of like endless. You just kind of keep going, see how far you can get. But if you leave early, you get to keep your stuff, but if you die, you leave it, sort of thing. Pretty interesting. This is one of the other characters. There's 3 characters in this game. There's the elven archer, there's the presumably human mage. In fact, am I an elf? Actually, I don't know. I actually don't know if I'm an elf. I might have just prescribed that to myself. But yeah, so there's an archer, there's a mage, and there's a warrior. And those are just kind of your 3 classes, I suppose. I've put a little bit of time into the mage, a bit of time into the archer, and not really any time at all into the warrior. Just personally, like you do a little like mini level to play as the characters when you first sort of unlock them, so you kind of get to see how they kind of feel to play. Didn't really like the warrior so much. I started with the mage and then I moved over to the huntress. Personally, I think she is the most fun for me at the moment. But yeah, so you can kind of just go around, you know, your hub area, do typical hub area stuff. So let's jump into an actual level, and we can start talking about the game's systems from there. So when I say this is like a game that doesn't really take itself too seriously, it's kind of funny, you know, it's got a bit of humor to it. Some of that humor landing, some of it maybe not so much landing. It's an interesting mix. So like on one hand, you've got the fact that a character needs you to go and find his keys that he lost in the graveyard, and then you do go through several levels to find the keys, only to find out that he actually didn't leave them there, and he had them the whole time, for example. That sort of stuff. But also on the other hand, there was a Doge meme reference at one point as well. So it's an interesting mix. So let's head on in here. So we're going to enter the prison. So the way this works, or at least I've seen so far, is that you go through an area. Now the first area of the game was the graveyard, and each of these little diamond icons is like a room or like a level in this area. And they have like recommended levels, and occasionally you might find little side rooms that are like side missions that like other characters have given you, but right now we'll just go through this one, which is the second level of the prison. Here we are, once again, like absolutely gorgeous pixel graphics going on here. So it's pretty standard affair, you know, left click, right click, those are your skills. These things here, they're breaches. This is the sort of thing you'll be doing the most, clearing out levels and clearing out breaches. They don't activate until you stand on them, and then a wave of enemies will appear, and then you must kill them. So let's do that. And some of them give you like buffs. Now that breach was very small. That was like just a starting one, I guess. And you also have rooms like this. But as you can see, it's quite satisfying just to do the combat. It really does like feel good. They've nailed what they set out to do. The combat just does feel very nice. Because I'm now in the prison as well, I'm starting to see enemies that are like unique to this area. So these guys here with like the wooden like tables or whatever they have on them. I don't know what these guys exactly are, but they're like unique to this prison. But most of these other enemies I saw in the graveyard as well. So in terms of enemy variety, I don't know how that's going to keep progressing, but it seems like there's a big chunk of enemies that are going to be used everywhere, and then like a little flavoring for the current area that you're in. And then you get your loot on the ground, as you might imagine. Being an ARPG, you pick it up, you open your inventory, here's your slots, here's your backpack, sort of. You can filter by level, extras, purity, reinforcement. Some of this stuff I haven't come across yet. And then, I suppose while we're here, we'll look at the, we'll just look at the menus here. So on the left, you've got like your stats, so you can see all that, like, oh, here's my evasion chance, here's my elemental resistance, my armor, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. Fierce Huntress, level 18. It's got a breakdown of all your stuff here. Very, very handy stuff. Now, if I show you this screen, this is kind of like one of the things that the game is kind of named after. You have Slorm Reapers. The word Slorm becoming less and less of an actual real sounding word in my head every time I say it. But essentially these are your weapons. You'll just find these randomly as you play. There's quite a lot. And they level up. So the thing about this game is that everything levels up. You level up, and then you get skills. And then your skills level up to gain enhancements to those skills. You find weapons, and your weapons level up. So this is the starting weapon, the Adam Nostris bow. I've used it for a bit, and then it leveled up twice, and now it's the Adam Nostris's perfect bow, which is where it'll stop, I presume. I haven't maxed out the end of a chain of a weapon yet, so I can only guess that that's going to stop there, and then that'll be as good as that gets, and then I'll find another one, and we'll sort of go from there. But yeah, as they level up, they stay the same, they keep the same like sort of effects, but then they just add more to them. Which is pretty cool. There's always something in this game that is like progressing, you know? Even if you like, you know, you've just dinged a level, and then you're maybe a bit far away from your next level, it's like your skill might be leveling up soon. Your weapon might be leveling up soon. You're gonna find that new gear soon. You know, there's just always something. And it's pretty rapid fire. So I'll show you this. This is the character attributes screen. So every time you level, you get one little point, and then you can put it into one of these. And the nice thing about this game is that it really wants you to experiment with builds. So there is absolutely like no penalty on putting points anywhere, and you can remove them freely. So I've put all my points into like this because this is attack speed. I can just remove those if I want. And then put them something else if I just want to try a different build. And that seems to be like the crux of like what this game's like really going for. Just it wants you to mess about with stuff like all the time. Now each individual point you put in is a very small like effect. Like you have 0.5% attack speed, but then you'll hit these like sort of bigger ones that have not only that but some other effects. Like you have +4 Reaper damage, +40 max Reaper damage, that sort of stuff. And then you'll hit these like bigger ones, and they'll have like, you know, your secondary skill has a 40% chance to slow down enemies. While in combat, as long as your last skill you've cast as a totem, you gain totemic dexterity, you know, it does all this stuff. So there's quite a bit of variety going on here, and you level up enough that these smaller sort of nodes here, because normally I would see +0.5% attack speed and be like, come on, let's give us something more interesting here. But you're getting them often enough that it does feel like you're just constantly sort of like building that way. And I don't think it feels too bad here. Especially because you, it gives you finer control over your build, and I think that's really what they were going for. Like, you can really fine-tune a build to what you want with this system. I'll show you the skills here as well. So, interestingly, you can only have 2 of these skills to the right of this little thing here. You can only have 2 of these on. These are your left click and your right click. And then your specialization here on the left, that becomes your spacebar. This is like your kind of like your big ability. So for this one, I've got the Architect of Death specialization, which gets a like a turret that gets called down, like a totem turret thing, portable ballista, and it shoots about at enemies. And like I said, you level up the skills as well. So as I'm just using the skill, it's leveling up, and then I spend Slorm. There's that word again, which is in the bottom right here. You can see I've got 19,859. Just killing enemies. Just killing enemies does it. You know, you'll just passively gain this sort of stuff as you're playing the game. And it's what's used to upgrade these, or to purchase them and upgrade them. So if I wanted to get Voracious Arrow, Arrow Shot has an additional +8 mana on kill. I would spend 201 Slorm to get this, and then max rank, that'll give me +53 mana on kill, and then I will keep spending Slorm to keep upgrading this to max that out. Some of them you just spend it once and you've got it, such as this one here. After each rebound, Arrow Shot's damage is increased by 20%. Now, some skills will rely on you having to build into them, or some little upgrades to the skills. So it says here, after each rebound, the arrow shot is increased by, or the arrow's damage is increased by 20%. You have to actually make it so your arrow can rebound. It's not going to give you innate reboundingness because you have purchased this. So this is where like the whole build stuff comes in, and you're able to like, you know, kind of hot swap around a lot of this stuff. Because you can downgrade this stuff too. You know, if like you don't want this, you can just be like, okay, I want my Slorm back and I want to put it into something else. So you can very quickly just go like, oh, I want to do a rebound build. I'll just quickly refund everything and then, you know, put everything into like making my shots rebound, and then we'll try to make that strong as possible. So it's cool stuff. Currently I have Arrow Shot and I have Void Arrow on here. Void Arrow is pretty cool. You right click and it fires this like one arrow, and it's got some like rebound and fork potential. Fork being it just splits into more shots after it hits something. But if you hold it and charge it, and you fire 5 of them, and they bounce all over the place and they do lots of kills. And I also have a skill that sometimes enemies who are killed by my shots spawn another totem. So you fire this bad boy in, and you know, potentially like that might be spawning a bunch of turrets, and then those are just shooting everything. So you can kind of see where that's going, how crazy that can get. And then right now I'm building into fire rate, so I just want to be putting down as many shots as absolutely possible. So let's just launch a shot in here. It just absolutely shreds the whole room. Very fun, very fun. I don't even know if there's enemies in here, but I'm gonna fire that anyway. In fact, this is a room I've already done. So you kind of just head like room by room. The levels aren't like anything crazy layout-wise, you know, you're just typical ARPG stuff, room to room, slaughtering enemies, getting loot. You find a breach. You have to close all the breaches to get out of the level, or at least that's what it's been so far. There might be other things that you have to do, such as killing a certain boss or getting a certain item. This breach actually gives us a buff of fire damage on our weapons. Pretty interesting. Here's a good room to do this in. So I've also got it that I apply poison and stuff on a lot of my attacks now as well, so just a lot of effects piling up. And oh, here we have a boss actually, so let's see who this is. Oh, this is kind of, oh sorry, this isn't a boss, this isn't like an elite enemy. Bosses have like much more health. But elite enemies get like a health bar like that. Then you get some loot, like I said, and then you just go and equip it, see what's good. Right now I'm at the point where if just something is a better rarity, it's probably just best to just slap it on. Anything else? Yes, so each character has a unique sort of passive mechanic that sort of goes on with them. That makes them a bit more interesting to play, rather than just sort of the skill differences. So the Huntress, she has Serenity. If I use the same skill over and over again, she gets like really happy. You can see that down here. And it says that I get plus 2% attack speed for each stack of Serenity. So I have 12 stacks there, so I have 24% attack speed. Plus cooldown reduction for each missing stack of Serenity. So get those skills firing out again if she's not happy. And you can see she's actually like smiling and stuff, but if I start doing another skill, or if I start alternating them, sorry, then that starts going down. And now suddenly we're in oh damn, what's the name? Tormented. Tormented is the one. So Tormented doesn't give you those bonuses, so you might be thinking like, what's the point in ever being in Tormented? Is this not just straight like something you want to avoid? However, some skills will have, in fact every skill I think will have something to do with Tormented. It just depends on what it is and how exactly it works, but it might have an extra effect if you cast it while Tormented. And that effect could be quite strong. So like, I think one of the ones I saw was an ability I used before called Arrow Rain. If I do that while Tormented, it also drops a trap where it's landing. And then you could combo that into other trap effects. So then suddenly you're trying to actually balance your Serenity and you're Tormented, because your build could revolve around being Tormented, but you just get a constant buff from being in a delighted state. So it's fairly interesting, you know. It adds a nice bit of flavor to each one of the three characters. The Warriors one, I can't quite remember what his is exactly, but the Mage's one, he has different schools of magic that his spells belong to, and depending on what you cast, you'll have these three little emblems that constantly cycle. It's in the same place down here, so if I cast a blue spell, it'll give me a blue emblem, and if I cast a green spell, then the next one up will be a green emblem, and then a red emblem if I cast a red one. So I have those three, and then a spell might become empowered if I cast it while I have three different colored emblems, or, you know, stuff like that. So there's like reasons for doing rotations of spells and stuff like that, because it might enhance the effect. So there's interesting stuff going on in this game, because you know, it's a bit of a sort of smaller scope ARPG. You know, we're not talking like Diablo levels here of like content and all that sort of business. But I mean, for the price of the game and stuff, it's obviously not what it's trying to do. But what it does do, like it sets out what it sets out to do, it does very well, in my opinion. So I just leveled up, so I can just hop in here, slap that in there, and off we go. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun, it's snappy, there's a bunch of fun little systems, there's always some form of progression going on that you can look forward to, like your weapon might upgrade, your skill might upgrade, and then you can go put a new passive in and that skill might now work slightly differently, you know, and might help towards your build. And you've got the usual stuff, like, you know, gear has different rarities, and depending on the rarity. So if you have like a grey item like this, it has base stats and defense stats, and then if it's If it's green, it then gets some magic stats, and then if it's blue, it then gets some rare stats on top of that. And if it's legendary, it loses the magic and rare stats, but gains some large legendary effect. So this helmet gives me a plus 53% pierce chance on the first enemy hit. So that's, as you imagine, if you were doing a piercing reliant build, that'd be very good, because you just have plus 53% inherent pierce chance. There's some skills as well that will increase like damage based on what your pierce chance is, so that could be just plus 53% damage on the first enemy hit by a hit, or by a shot or something. So, pretty good. So you may have noticed down at the bottom here, there's these 4 skills. Or these 4 skill slots, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, you don't put... oh, don't look at that screen. We're not there yet. But you don't put these skills in there. These are only left click and right click, and then your specialization is only spacebar. These are reserved for an item might give you a skill, or what's more likely is that you'll find this skill tree, which it does feel like Path of Exile is certainly having its influences. But basically, you'll get ancestral stones as you go through the game. There's a character at the minute who is giving them out for doing certain things for him. And I've done 2 things. Well, one, I found him, he gave me one, and then 2, I've like helped him get a hat, and he's now wearing that hat, and he's very happy about it. And he gives you ancestral stones, and you can put these into like any of these, but you have to have connected them. So I have to put it into the first one here, and then I could connect that into here, into here, into here, you know, for example. And some of them are passive. So the first one I got was attack speed, and then you can also use Slorm to level this up. So there we go, I just made that better. And then the other one I put in here is an ancestral skill you'll see on my number 1 bar there. And it just gives you more raw damage, more crit strike chance for the next 7 seconds. And you can level that up as well, so I just hit 1, and then suddenly I'm doing more attack speed, or more raw damage and crit attack and stuff like that. So those just go further into the build crafting. And as you might imagine, I can literally just take this out and put it somewhere else if I want. And the upgrade stays in this, so there it is, it's active again. Like I said, just very, very versatile build systems. Just do whatever you want, whenever you want. It's what the game really likes to... what the game really thrives in, you know. One sort of source of criticism I did have was mainly whenever I was saying about how there's that one character, I got a hat for him, and now he wears the hat and he looks very nice. Our gear does not affect our character's view, which is a bit unfortunate, because I feel like that's one of the most fun things about an RPG, or an ARPG specifically, is decking out your character with like sick gear, not only in stats but also in look. So that'd be one thing that would be nice, but given like the scope of the game, like I don't hate it too much. We're here for the builds and the combat mostly, and then, you know, you'll be shooting stuff and the screen will be so filled with stuff you'll just never even see your character half the time. So I can understand why they maybe didn't make this a thing. But it's just when a character gets a nice hat and, you know, he's happy about his nice hat. You know, I want to feel that way about a nice hat on my own, you know what I'm saying? So that's where that sort of comes from. So let's clear out this. Some of these breaches are actually quite easy. I think it's just because we're quite early on into the prison area here. Because the breaches by the end of the graveyard area were quite a bit longer than this, or had a lot more enemies. Summon a little turret, it can start shooting at enemies up there, and then maybe I'll start hitting enemies and calling in more turrets, who knows? Got an elite enemy here, we'll just fire at him with some void arrows, absolutely shred him. So I'm at the point now where I'm seeing whites drop and I'm just like, you know what, I don't even care. You can sell your stuff, and there is some form of crafting, I haven't gotten to that yet. I believe that's actually who I'm looking for, or one person I could find in the prison area is the blacksmith, and then I'll probably find that system. But it looks like it's going to be fairly straightforward because you have a crafting materials thing here, and it's probably just, you know, get these, craft that, etc, etc. Got the elite enemy out of one here. Oh, well, he's dead. Because my void arrow is very, very good. And we find a person. So sometimes whenever you clear breaches, you will just find a person in them. So we got Rick Manalan, a Slormite expert. No Slormite, still thinking, I don't remember the guild. Get back at the village and I'll give you a membership card. Yeah, and that's probably going to be some like new thing unlocked. We've hit the end of the level, closed all the breaches, found the character. Here's our sort of like little stats at the end. And then we're back home. And sometimes you'll just get some little like story updates, you know. So this is the guy who sort of runs the prison. So they'll just be some humor like thrown in every now and again. They'll talk about like they made something a certain way, and then they'll be like, "Oh, that doesn't seem actually very efficient." Now does it? Now that you're running through it as a video game. So yeah, I'm trying to think, is there anything else I want to talk about with this game? Sound design's pretty good. Everything sounds good. Sounds as good as it should. The music's just fun. You know, nothing too crazy, but does the job. Does what we're here to do. Adds some nice flavor to the fights and stuff. But I think that's probably about it. In terms of like technical state and all that, I haven't run into any like bugs or anything. Runs like an absolute dream, as you might imagine. The visuals are lovely looking. I've already sort of talked about how I would like some visual sort of appearance stuff, you know, to customize the character would be nice. So the guy who has the nice hat is over here. I got that very nice hat for him, and now he wears the hat. I would like to wear the hat. Yeah, but that's about it. Pretty good game. Pretty good game. If you like your ARPGs and you're looking for some low stakes, high fun, single player ARPG action, you could do a lot worse than this game for sure. This is a good time. This one goes for... I realised I forgot to say the price earlier. You can get this one for about £16.75 or $19.99 on Steam currently. I believe it is still, at the time of the recording of this video, I believe it is still on a 1.0 early access, like coming out of early access release discount, so you may be able to get it a little bit cheaper than that. But yeah, this one's been a good time. Thank you for watching, and there shall be another video coming up shortly, hopefully. And I'm just going to plug some Twitch and stuff like that, so if you don't care about that sort of stuff, thank you for watching. But for anyone else who sticks around, thank you very much. But I stream on twitch.tv/Redeyes_NI. You can find the links in the description under this video and stuff like that. On Twitter, on Blue Sky, all that sort of business is all under there as well. You can see a lot of the games I do videos on, I tend to stream my sort of first reactions to them, so you can see that sort of getting done live, but sometimes I'll just play, like this one, I play off stream, and then make a video on it. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.